Hey, welcome back to another episode of It's a Football Thing. I'm your host, RJ, and I'm joined by my fellow co hosts, Scott the Gooner and Tom the Red Devil, stepping in for Rob the Red Devil this evening. Thank you, Tom. I'll start with you. How you going, champion?
Yeah, very well. Thanks. Very well. Thank you for having me. Obviously, as always, hopefully an adequate substitution for Rob. But how am I doing? Look after United, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later. As good as you can do after a loss to Newcastle. Well, I say a loss to Newcastle, a draw to
Felt like
Newcastle.
a loss.
But yeah, no, very well. Thanks.
You're more than an adequate substitute, Tom. Just want to throw that out there. Speaking of adequate, Scott, how you going, mate?
I feel like I'm talking to two RJs. Like there's lucky you're both wearing different shirts because it's a little bit similar. But no, again, Tommy, I only messaged him about 25 minutes ago. Thanks for joining us, man. Robbie can't be here tonight, but to have you on it is an absolute pleasure. Declared, summing up the thoughts of many already in the chat. Draw to Newcastle and Robbie goes missing. Yeah, you know what? Shows how brave Tom is. Shows how brave Tom is. He'll come in and talk football. Robbie, give it to him on Thursday. Tonight, we're going to unpack the results that have been. Obviously, with COVID, we've lost a few fixtures. We haven't had all of them. We're going to talk about our January transfer wish lists while we're in the festive season of giving and receiving, and who our clubs would like to have. So that'll be really interesting. I can't wait to hear your thoughts, Tom. And besides that, we're going to do some quick fires. We're going to do some predictions. It's a busy show. RJ, you didn't tell us how you are.
Not too bad, mate. So I did well over Christmas, got this nice kit. Obviously, Chelsea made us very proud with a very important 3-1 win, which we'll touch on against Villa. Also got some extra gear in the background. And I'm not sure if you can see this, but I got this nice little key ring that's got the Champions Super Cup as well as the Champions League. So it's nice to have some merchandise coming out of the Christmas break. So all smiles from here, gentlemen. But enough of that. Let's get straight into the week that was in the Premier League. So what's some of the big ticket items there, Scott?
Well, look, let's go through the results. Let's start with Spurs. My North London friends. Spurs beat Palace 3-0. The good run of form under Conte continues. Harry Kane got on the score sheet. Son had a good game. Things seem to be on the up for Spurs, and it just goes to show that new manager sometimes can make the absolute world of difference. Watching that game, because I actually did catch this one, I was really impressed with their front three. Lucas Moura, again, was instrumental in the attack, and when he's playing well, Spurs generally are getting some really good results. So it was interesting to see them absolutely decimate a Palace team that have caused some trouble for other teams in this league, but you know, they're doing well under Conte. He's got them humming. I don't know if you saw any of that, RJ. Did you catch any of that or the highlights?
Yeah, I did. The extended highlights. I do. Palace are one of those teams, again, who've, like a few of our teams, have been hit pretty hard from unavailabilities. And I feel like they were a bit of a victim club that up against a team that's had more rest than game time in recent games. But that's the reality of the unprecedented season we're in. And to Spurs' credit, they took full advantage. And a player that you highlighted that I admittedly had my doubts on is Lucas Moura. He had such a really strong game. And I think Conte's got this ability where everybody's distracted by all of the marquee players, that it's almost like a little bit of a mini project for him to try and really pick up those that are more of the supporting cast members and really get the most out of them. So I think he's a player there, Lucas Moura, that can be low-key quite important for them on top of Sons and the Kanes and Højbjergs, etc. So, yeah, I thought Spurs too strong in the end, but Palace, I do feel sorry for them, I have to say.
Yeah, it's interesting what Martin's saying here. He feels like it's a structure and that Conte's come in and got the structure right for their players. I don't know if you've seen much of Spurs lately, Tom, but they were not really in that top four conversation. Do you think now, and I mean, both of our teams, we're currently in fourth, but both our teams would like to be in that top four come the end of the season. Do you think Spurs are getting overlooked, Tom?
Probably not anymore. And I think in the next couple of weeks they won't be overlooked because I think they'll be right in the middle of the discussion. But I think Tottenham, they're a weird one because I think every sort of rival set of fans like to banter Tottenham. And I think there's always two different sides to looking at Tottenham. There's that side in terms of the narrative portrayed by the media, and there's reality. And the reality is they've got a good manager and good players. And they've always been a good team. They can go out and look. They sort of should have won against Liverpool the other day, type thing. They can go to the best teams in the league and get a result and even win on their day, type thing. But we have this banter around Tottenham saying, "Oh, Spurs, they're no good." Well, at the end of the day, they have a world class manager, and some of their attacking players, as you mentioned, are world class. So they're going to be in that discussion. Whether they got knocked out of the Europa Conference League, that probably helps their sort of chase in regards to the top four type thing. So they're definitely in that discussion. And look, I think it's too early to say who's favourite for that top four race at the moment. But there's definitely got to be many candidates for it. Maybe West Ham are the ones who may be starting to slip away. But it's a weird one. Tottenham are definitely in it, and you wouldn't bet against them. It's obviously a good manager, and Harry Kane scores goals. So if you've got a goal scorer, you're in with a shout.
Let's quickly touch on West Ham because I'd been saying it at the start of the season that they're going to drop off. They're going to drop off. Eventually, they're going to drop. This form won't last. And I feel like the wheels are slowly starting to fall off for West Ham. They haven't been picking up the results they wanted to pick up. And in this game, Southampton were, I think, the better team. They played quite well, for my mind. Controlled possession. They kept West Ham relatively quiet. And they picked up a valuable 3 points. So those that didn't see, West Ham lost 3-2 to Southampton. And that now really, to me, throws them out of the conversation for top four, even though it's early. RJ, what do you think of our London rivals, mate?
Yeah, it's one of those things that every team's going to experience a bit of a dip in form. And West Ham's going through their little roller coaster adventure at the moment. They do have a few problems injury-wise defensively that's really affected their stability at the back. They conceded a cheap winner with the set piece there that ultimately cost them the points, and the penalty, bizarre stuff there. Another silly mistake to give away against a rampant Armando Broja, great Chelsea loanee, of course. But in the end, it's just a situation where I don't think it's too early to start discounting them from top four conversation. But I think, if anything, what it does show you is two things. Firstly, the conversation of top four is so early to talk about, which Tom alluded to, but equally, just how competitive the Premier League really is. I said, and I keep saying this about Southampton, they're 14th now. They've given themselves a little bit of breathing space because they were dreading towards the perilous drop zone. But the way that they've been playing and the style of football, that very fast, attacking, aggressive, intensive style of football, eventually was going to pay dividends for them. The results were misleading, and now we're starting to see the fruits of their work. And I actually like watching Hasenhüttl's team, and I think that they're going to be sitting in and around the mid-table come end of the season, provided the little asterisks of no major injuries, of course.
Tom, bubbles bursting for West Ham? Or you reckon they might get back into it? We are now... I know you boys are both that it's early. We're halfway through.
Yeah. In terms of the bubble burst, to be honest, I know they were in good form and they were up there. I never was too impressed with West Ham. I never saw anything that was really great. Okay, yes, they're the underdog. Everyone wants that new Leicester or new team. There's always that team on the verge of that top four. They sort of fade away. But in terms of their performances, Mikel Antonio was the new big thing in terms of his goals. In my opinion, Mikel Antonio, I don't even know if he's a striker. Yes, he pops up with goals, but I don't see a team there that challenges for European football type thing. That's not a criticism of them. They're doing very well. I think they're well managed under David Moyes, but I think they are what they are. I think they're going to finish in that round 8th, 9th, 10th position, which is ultimately where they're sort of on track to reach, in my opinion.
Spot on. Let's look at your Manchester rivals. For me, as a neutral, obviously this was a highly enjoyable game. It was just a weird game, like 6-3. Plenty of action. At one point, you thought City were just going to absolutely run away. And Leicester staged a mini fight back. I mean, they're absolutely buzzing at this point in time. Tom, surely do you think that they're now well above United, where everyone expected a title challenge, but you look at City, you look at United, God, there's a golfing class.
Oh, look, to be honest, that's not up for discussion. The facts are facts. So we see it every week that Manchester City are on a different level, unfortunately. But you just mentioned that in regards to the way the game went. I watched it on the mini match on Optus or the 3-minute highlight package. And when you see that, when they only show one replay of the goal type thing, and City was scoring every single replay type thing, I was thinking, oh my God, this is going to be 10-0 type thing, because it was 4-0 after whatever, 20 minutes or something like that. And weird game, as I said, I don't know how the game unfolded in regards to the balance of play, but weird how Leicester almost got back into it. Crazy scenes type thing. But City, like I said at the start of the season, unfortunately, they're the best team in the country for me. I think they're far better than Liverpool. I think they're better than Chelsea. Now, the best team doesn't sort of automatically win. You need a few things to go your way to win a title. How all the teams fare in Europe, that'll play a big factor type thing. But unfortunately, from a Manchester United fan's point of view, they are the best team. Tom carrying another podcast on his back. Have to do my best. Carrying the red shirt. Seeing the Chelsea and Arsenal shirts above me, but thank God there's no Man City fan. Obviously, it would have been hard done by to find one here. But
besides Simon Hill, I don't know any.
Well, they're all packing out the Etihad, aren't they?
Yeah, that's it. That's it, mate. Listen, Emad, you're always coming in throwing shade. I love having you here, but I think you and me need to do a Scott and Emad live stream where we just hug it out, dude. You just got to hug it out. I know you don't like. Well, what annoys Emad? What do I say that annoys him? Is it Man United? What do I say to him?
There's I won't get into it. It's a long story and it's a very controversial thing. Man United fans don't receive well the term Man U. There's a few reasons for that.
Right, cool.
Yeah. Long story. A topic for another debate.
Tonight, Emad, I'm going to refrain from saying Man U just because I'm so happy you're here. RJ, City, too good. Surely they run away from here.
No, my Premier League favourites. But interestingly, you look at the goals and it's 6. But, geez, some woeful pieces of defending again, some uncharacteristic mistakes from Schmeichel. It's just a team like City is already dangerous enough. You don't need to gift them goals. And they were gifted some. I know they gifted a couple back. And interestingly, their defence was picked apart a couple of times, and a player I want to call out from the losing side, James Maddison. He was very, very impressive, I've got to say. The team that got absolutely battered and bluesed, if you want to call it that, James Maddison could walk off the pitch with his head held high because he almost, single-handedly carried them back into the game, which was far out of their reach. But ultimately, this is a question for Leicester fans, I wonder, is this a situation now where are we now starting to see the slow breakup of Rodgers with Leicester? Or is there enough in there? Do they show enough signs of fight that they're happy that they can recover their season? Because we've given Leicester, and I'm at the forefront of this, plenty of praise in recent seasons, and particularly under the Rodgers reign, about the type of football they play, about the results they've achieved, and just they're an all-round good team to watch. But this season, the way I would characterize them is that they've been very underwhelming and they've been mistake-riddled. And that continues to be the theme, and that's what's separating them from picking up those much-needed points. So, look, I've got to say, City, they're no joke. They're going to touch up a lot of teams like they continue to do. But Leicester, they're in a different situation altogether. And I'm just quite keen to see. We've got some Foxes fans, and even from you gentlemen, Tom and Scott, do you think, is this something of a real concern for Leicester, or is it just the 6-3s are battering and move on and they'll recover from there on?
They're not the only team that are going to get, speaking from personal experience, getting battered by Man City. I mean, it's hardly the end of the world because they're going to do that to many, many more teams this season. But I think it's more, looking past this result, it's more their recent form. I mean, a little bit like what Tom was saying about West Ham. They were getting points, but they weren't necessarily looking great. I mean, Madison's really stepped up recently, and that's helped. But, they don't seem to be buzzing as a team. It's like one guy steps up, has a really good run, and earns them some points, and then they need someone else to carry the team on their back. Like, they don't seem to be doing it as a team. It was Vardy early on. Iheanacho had a great run at the end of last season. Maddison now, I don't see Leicester even finishing in the top 6.
Do you think, I'll throw a question to both of you. I was just thinking when you're both making your points there, I they hampered by winning the title a few years ago? I think we have these expectations of them as this big club, a championship winning team, and push them on for Europe. If you actually look at what they have at their disposal, I don't think they're in that category to be pushing for top 4 or Champions League spots. I think they are what they are, but we have this thing because they won the title and they won an FA Cup under Brendan Rodgers type thing. I think we expect a little bit too much from Leicester. Where you do look at their team, I mean, they're producing what they should be producing, in my opinion.
I think they, I don't know. I hear you, Tom, but I also think that they've set a bit of an expectation beyond the title of being the team that's self-sustainable and being able to replace quality talent with quality and just maintain a consistent level of standard. But this season, we're not seeing that. We're seeing, again, too much variation. We're seeing a lot of good elements to their play. We're seeing, but as I said, the theme that stands out to most is the amount of individual errors that are not normal. Like Tillemans gives away 2 penalties. Like that stuff there that you can blame the manager for so much, but I think individually players have got to start really assuming some responsibility for these. With Schmeichel, he's a seasoned campaigner, palms the ball right into Gundogan's path. Like I expect a lot better from these players, and maybe our thinking has been shaped by the fact that they won the title 6 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was. But ultimately, I thought they've been a team that's moved on since then and have been in and around the top 4 conversation and deservedly thought to be compared with the others in that bracket. So I just think this season, again, they've just shown so much vulnerability at the back that they've even improved some of their purchases. Like they bought Vestergaard in, and I can't understand why they're so shaky. Like Sionchu's been, awful, and I don't like to say that about any player, but Rodgers is now, that's why I asked you boys the question about, is this something where the players now are not fully buying into what Rodgers is dishing out to them? Or is it the fact that now the players themselves are just not stepping up when it matters? So I don't know. It's a tough one.
It's hard to say, but look, let's talk about a club that is stepping up when it matters. That's my team. 5-0, boys. It was nice. It was a good result. Now, by no means am I getting carried away. It's what I expect. I mean, I expected us to dominate. They were decimated by injuries and COVID. They're a newly promoted team. I expect Arsenal to win those games comfortably. There should be no squeaky bum time during those games. It should be clear, easy business. Get it done. And we've been doing that lately. I have to say, Arsenal have really, really stepped up. And, guys who I've criticised, Odegaard is someone who I still haven't fully warmed to him despite his form, because I know with this Arsenal team, we seem to kind of ride the wave and then crash right down. But with Odegaard, he's in great form. He's keeping Emile Smith-Rowe out of the starting lineup. He's been a great catalyst for us. Lacazette, of course. Rumours are he's just knocked back a contract. And rightfully so. We didn't want him. You can't just expect a player to turn around and sign now that they're doing well. So we're clicking, we're doing well, and our fixtures aren't too crazy at the moment. We do have, I think it's Man City coming up, and to me that's going to be a test, a real big test. So, yeah, exciting times as an Arsenal fan. I don't know about you boys. Tom, I know on the pubcast you guys don't mind giving us a little bit of banter. But you have to say that Arsenal have kind of stepped it up lately.
Yeah, no, take away the banter side of things. You have to give them credit because they're performing. And I think, look, I'm not happy for him, but someone I would be sort of, if I was an Arsenal fan, you have to be happy for Mikel Arteta because the abuse he's got from some Arsenal fans, I think, I'm not saying he's proving people wrong, but you can see something there from Arteta. And look, I've criticised him hugely in the past, but he's getting something out of these players. Now, ultimately, you do look at those fixtures and you do look at the win columns. They are, as you mentioned, they are against teams you should be winning. Now, obviously, at the moment, they're doing it in very good style, which you have to give a little bit of extra credit for. But the test has to say, look, you don't expect them to go and beat Manchester City or even get a result against Manchester City. But you can see a situation where Arsenal could lose 4 or 5-0 to Manchester City. Then you think, oh, here we go, same old Arsenal type thing. So I think it's the type of thing they need to continue this. Whether they continue it throughout January, time will tell. But at the moment, unfortunately, you do have to give them a lot of credit from a Man United point of view. And at the moment, I say I haven't looked at the table. I'm scared to. But you mentioned they are in 4th. And I assume with the games in hand that'd be very hard for United to make up, because I assume we're a fair way behind at the moment.
I don't know if it's too far away, but I mean, look, our next game is Man City on New Year's Day, so let's see what kind of start Arsenal fans are going to get to 2022. But yeah, it'll be interesting. RJ, I don't know if you caught any of our game, but Saka found his goal-scoring boots, which is, a lot of Arsenal fans have said for him to be in that conversation as, one of the most promising young talents in the game, he needs to start adding goals. And it's nice for me as a Gunners fan to see that he is adding some goals. What did you make of the result?
Yes, emphatic, and it needed to be honest, because Norwich are getting desperate. We know that they've had a mini sort of resurgence under Dean Smith, but they've still got some deep-seated problems that they're going to really need to get some time to really iron out. But Arsenal, this is the good part of them that we're starting to see. I was listening to you before, and you rightfully said you don't want to get too excited too soon, because you know you have these blocks of good form, then snap back down to earth where you belong, with like the mere mortals you guys are. But I think I also heard Tom say against City, you don't really expect them to get a result, but equally you could get touched up again. It's something that could happen. But I don't know. I think that this is going to be a real intriguing clash. I do take note the fact, like Daniel said in the chat, that the Wolves game for you guys was postponed there, Scott. So I think that's going to help them a lot in terms of their rest and recovery, which that's a whole separate topic, as a Chelsea fan, what we think about games and postponements. But overall, yeah, exactly. We just get the job done. City, Arsenal, very fascinating. Can they drum up a result? I think they won't get a win, but I reckon they're going to make it a very difficult proposition for City if they can keep things tight nice and early. But if not, it could be waterworks again for Arteta. And I'm not convinced he still is the long-term solution to your club. But at the moment, you've got to give credit where it's due, and he is helping them improve considering the bad start that they had.
Yep, fair shout. I've chucked in the live chat the link to the United Pubcast, which is Tom's channel that he runs with Larry. I was just watching their stream before this one, and our stream schedules always seem to work really well. We don't stream at the same time very often, so make sure you check them out, chuck them some subs. They do a great job, and it was great to see it buzzing over there before this. Let's quickly go to United, Tom. I know you just spoke about it for 45 minutes or so. So we won't grill you too much, because you are sitting in the hot seat for Rob, who didn't want to come on because he's scared. No, he's not scared. He had something come up. But what did you make of it? Like, just sum it up really quickly.
It was bad. It was very bad from a United point of view. Newcastle deserved to win. Look, on the balance of play, United were the better team, but Newcastle should have won. The chances fell to Newcastle. They really should have won 3 or 4-1 at the end of the day. So it doesn't matter how good not that they played good, but United dominated the game, but obviously did not deserve to win at all. Quite lucky to David De Gea, player of the season, man of the match yet again, saved us. And it was just poor because, look, Ralph Rangnick, and I'm a big fan of Ralph Rangnick. I've loved what he's done since he's come in. I really do like him. But if you didn't look who was on the sideline in that second half, that was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And that is where I point to the fact where, yes, Solskjaer needed to go. I completely understand that. But the players need to take responsibility. Bruno Fernandes was playing Bruno Fernandes' football. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wasn't telling Bruno Fernandes, go do your own thing. Ralph Rangnick's not telling Bruno Fernandes, go back, pick the ball up off the back four and play a 70-metre long ball into the goalkeeper's hands. That's not Ralph Rangnick. That's on Bruno Fernandes, and that's where the players need to take responsibility. Now, ultimately, yes, the manager sort of cops the brunt of that and will take responsibility. I agree with that, but these players, Roy Keane made the comment, it was under when Jose Mourinho got sacked in the first little bad spell under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Roy Keane made the famous quote saying, leopards don't change their spots, and they'll throw this manager under the bus. They threw Jose Mourinho under the bus. They threw Solskjaer under the bus. And I'm not going to say they're going to throw Ralph Rangnick under the bus, but the evidence that we have suggests that's a very likely outcome. So ultimately not good enough. Fair play to Newcastle. They deserve to smash us on the day. As Ralph said, maybe a good point for the United in the end, a point gained, maybe.
That's it. Look, for me, watching it, Newcastle were brutally unlucky to lose Alonso Maximin and to lose Callum Wilson. I think really blunted their attack. Not that they were, going hell for leather attacking out, but yeah, I think they could feel hard done by. Robbie's really adamant that they're going down, but him and I have been on opposite ends of this. I'm adamant that they will stay up because they will do business in January. I'm sure that they'll be a busy team in the window. But I think they'll take a lot of confidence from that result against United. And for me, in that, I just want to quickly mention Ronaldo. Jeez Louise, he really went missing. And I don't get to watch full United games often, but this was at the perfect time. He really just was a passenger for me. Now, I don't know if it's because he's not getting smart service, or I don't know if it's because he's not putting himself into the game, but it's not working with Ronaldo. I don't know what it is. I mean, in saying that, he's banged in 14 goals. I think it's more about the service. I think your team needs to play more to his strengths, which are being clinical, and he's got good positioning, but he's not going to run for the ball. You've got to put the ball to him in a good position. I don't know what your thoughts were on that, Tom, before we jump over to Arj. Do you think it's a positioning? Is it Ronaldo? Is it the tactics? What do you put it down to?
Look, we made the point today, and we made the point the first day that he signed back in August, whenever it was, that there's a very strong case that Man United are a better football team and will play better football without Cristiano Ronaldo. That's the case. And you talk about that he went missing and he was quiet. His best performances this season, whether it be the 2 goals against Arsenal or when he saves us in the Champions League, same performance. He doesn't do anything during the game. And it is the price you pay. Yes, we could have Cavani on there and maybe create 10 chances. But in those 10 chances, if Ronaldo's on the pitch, we might only score 2 goals. Listen carefully to Arsenal. But look, it's a hard one. Arsenal are performing at the moment, so you do have to take a back seat.
I'm a massive fan. I would have loved him to go to City. I only want you to sign him.
Look, there is a balance. At the moment, Ronaldo's performing. Other players aren't performing. You can argue that other players do suit the system, and I completely agree with that. But as you mentioned, 13 or 14 goals at the moment. Ronaldo is doing his job when we get the ball to him. Our problem at the moment, in terms of an attacking sense, is getting that ball to the final third. We have an issue defending, and we have an issue in midfield getting the ball forward. Once the ball's in the final third, the one time we got it in the box today, Cavani scored. If we got it in the box more often, we would create, or would be a little bit more deadly. But look, Ronaldo has been a good signing. I completely accept and understand and agree with parts that say we could be better off without him. But look, Man United fans, we've been waiting 12 years for this. So in my opinion, I'm just going to enjoy it for the next year. Yeah. And look, it's a tough one. I completely agree with both sides of it.
RJ, what did you make of the result, man? I know, like, we're not United fans. We clearly wanted Newcastle to take all 3 points, but United managed to save us something. What did you think about it?
Disappointing for a team that had a lot of freshness behind them. Yes, they had players recovering like all of us, but expected a more high octane effort, and they just failed to deliver. And I just thought Tom's right in the sense of United, because I did actually catch it on the general play, were good, but overall chances, big chances, Newcastle deserved to take away all 3 points. And that can happen sometimes against, we spoke about Norwich before being desperate. Newcastle's equally desperate, and that's what happens sometimes. But the brutal reality is a team as strong on paper and have aspirations as big as United, they've really got to be doing much better against a team that was equal last in the Premier League. And that's just the situation for what it is, and they deserve to get the result they did. The whole thing about Ronaldo, as you know, we like to stir up a little bit of banter here. We all know about his friendly competitor that cops a lot of slack from this channel from time to time. It's nice to see someone else, struggling and not just our mate, Mr. Number 7. But for Ronaldo, I feel for him, because I agree with Adam, I think made the comment before. The service was terrible. He's a finisher at heart. He's not someone that's going to run, do all the hard work and really improve the team as a whole. But he's potent, he's deadly. You've got to give him the opportunities to do so. He's not in the prime of his career. It's not reasonable to expect a 2015, 2016 Ronaldo. So you've got to play to his strengths, unfortunately. It's not like a Lukaku to Chelsea who's in his peak. He's got to find a situation where he matches our strengths as much as we match his strengths. For Ronaldo, it's completely lopsided. You've got to play to his strengths or he adds zero value. And that's what we're seeing, unfortunately, for United fans. But look, we all know he's a quality player. My suspicion is we're probably going to start seeing a slow pullback of his influence on games now, because results need to start talking and not just big name players.
Boys, I want to quickly put this out before we go to Chelsea, only because I know there's a bit of banter going back and forward in the live chat. As long as we keep it all respectful, that's the most important thing. But Martin's chucked this comment up, and I know he's not trying to bait anyone. But no other team in the top 6 would take Ronaldo. Now that to me is really interesting. I'm going to quickly say the teams in the top 6. I want you to tell me if you think they would right now take Ronaldo into their team. And I think what Martin's saying is to be like a starting player. Of course, anyone would love to chuck him in their squad, but to be in their starting lineup tomorrow. Man City are at the top. Do you think they take Ronaldo right now, RJ?
Well, they wanted to buy him apparently, so they must have. Like that's the answer there. Based on how he's going, I'd probably say not as a starter. No. Why fix what's not broken?
Tom?
Weirdly, out of the top 6, I think Man City probably is the one, and he's probably the furthest thing from a Pep Guardiola player type thing. But I think if one team would opt for a sort of, I wouldn't call him a target man, but that sole striker, I think Manchester City weirdly would be the one. Now, at the moment, they're top of the table, so why would they? But I think Manchester City would, to be honest.
To me, I don't think they would. Pep kind of likes to keep the egos in check, and I just wonder now if he would take Ronaldo. I do think it might have been a bit of a blessing in disguise for City, but potentially. Let's look at the next one, Liverpool. Do Liverpool, with their system, slot in Ronaldo? For me, it's a no. RJ, you're shaking your head. You're a no.
No, not for me.
Tom?
They're so important. Just quickly on to why. Because Liverpool's game is built on high-octane, intensity style of play. And I think, again...
He doesn't fit there.
He doesn't fit, mate. Square peg, round hole. Even as good as he is. That's my opinion.
Tom, do you reckon Liverpool would take it?
Liverpool would be the one definite where, as great as Ronaldo is, definitely wouldn't suit Liverpool. I think it wouldn't suit Klopp, wouldn't suit the type of players they have, wouldn't suit the club in terms of what they want. I think Liverpool are definitely the one case that he just would not fit.
And this is no banter intended. This anyone who watches this channel regularly knows that I'm a massive Ronaldo fan. I'm arguing with RJ about this on the regular about the Messi Ronaldo thing, but I don't think Liverpool take him. Chelsea, well, you've just signed Lukaku. I don't think that Thomas Tuchel would want to slot Ronaldo in there. Would you take him right now, Arch?
No, we don't want any has-beens. No, just kidding, because obviously I'm the Messi fan here. But I have so much respect for Ronaldo, and I feel sorry for him, honestly. I just think he's been brought in a situation where he's been drafted in because the club wanted to avoid some public relations embarrassment of him going to a direct rival. So full credit to him, again, for accepting the responsibility. But I just think it didn't really benefit anyone football-wise. It just benefited the balance sheet Premier League that United wanted to win.
Yeah.
So... Look, no. Simply as that. Chelsea, no. Great player, great impact player, not a starting 11 each week, no.
Tom?
Just on United there before Chelsea, and I agree, probably doesn't go into the Chelsea team at the moment, especially with Lukaku. Maybe defensively as well. Not sure RJ would be able to sort of look at it from a defensive aspect with Chelsea, whether he would suit Tuchel. In my opinion, from what I've seen, probably not. But we look at what United could have been if Ronaldo wasn't there. Well, Cavani wouldn't be fit. Cavani plays about 2 games a season, as good as he is. You're going to rely on Marcus Rashford, Anthony Martial once out. You're going to rely on Mason Greenwood to leave the line. So, yes, there are criticisms to Ronaldo's arrival at the moment. And we can say this about anyone, any top scorer, take them out of the team and you can say, where would we be? I understand that. But we would be in a hell of a big hole if Cristiano Ronaldo wasn't here because the makeup of our front attacking players, as good as they are on paper, in reality, they're not those players you can sort of really rely on.
Spot on. And look, I mean, just to kind of quickly wrap that up, because we will move on. Obviously, we all know West Ham would. They're sitting in 6th place. You know West Ham would. Spurs have Harry Kane up there. I don't see him dislodging Harry Kane at Spurs. And Arsenal, I mean, God, being a massive fan, I'd love to have him, but we've seen with the structure that Mikel Arteta wants someone who will hold the ball up. So I don't know if he's willing to hold the ball up and play that kind of way that's going to bring the others in. But look, I would take him. I would take him at Arsenal still and have a punt. He's too good a player not to. But interesting point from Martin. It's curious to see that a player like Ronaldo, we can all agree there are some of those clubs up there that probably wouldn't take him. So it's an interesting case. But Tom, I agree with you. He's done a good job for United. I don't think any United fan could turn around and say, I wish we hadn't have signed him, because he's banged in 14 goals here. So, and some of them have been really clutch. Let's go to your team, RJ. Let's talk Chelsea. You had a good result against Stevie G's Aston Villa. Lukaku on the score sheet. You have to be happy with that all round, yeah?
Yeah, as Emad said, the brick wall up front, he returned. And if that's a brick wall, Emad, I'm more than happy to have him because he's much better than the pensioner that you've got up front at the moment, in my opinion. So we'll see what happens there. Phenomenal impact. Not bad for someone who just come back from injury for the first time in a while. 45 minutes, completely changed the dynamic of the game. Fine header, bulldozing run, knocked out target, got taken down, and ultimately got the third decisive goal for us via Jorginho's second penalty. What will I say about that match? Unfortunate own goal by Reece James, freak looping header over Mendy. That happens. But then straight away, we didn't let our heads drop. Got the equalising penalty, which was clear as day, foul on show. Unfortunate for Matty Cash. And then, like I said, second half was a totally different ball game. So happy days. Chelsea needed to win to keep up the title pursuit. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. Nice to see Mateo Kovacic, Kante, absolutely mad. Fish, hook, line and sinker, my friend. Nice to see Kante, Jorginho and Kovacic, but I've heard Kante also copped another injury, so we can't seem to get a lucky break with this guy. No. So he's someone where we're going to talk January transfers later. That's a position of concern for me. But overall, Lukaku was the star of the show, and that's what matters, 3 points.
Look, I didn't really get to catch that one outside of the highlights. I mean, a couple of penalties, not much to say about that. They were pens. At this point, you got to say Jorginho, just a penalty merchant, man.
23 out of 26, man. That's a pretty good stat.
Not a bad return, is it? Not a bad return. Tom, anything you wanted to add on Chelsea before we talk January?
Yeah, I think they're just sort of, I wouldn't say in the Tottenham mould, but just sort of plotting a lot nicer. Sort of, okay, you're going to have one or two sort of bumpy results sort of around this time of the season, but ultimately it's such a tough situation for every club, whether it be Chelsea or a team at the bottom of the table, in regards to you can go into a game full of confidence. Okay, this player's going to play. Suddenly, two days before kickoff, he's got COVID. And it changes the whole dynamic of the preparation sort of thing. So that's what, look, Chelsea have to deal with, United have to deal with, Newcastle have to deal with. It's the same across the board. But I think they're just almost, I wouldn't say unfortunate because I've got no love for Chelsea, but they're just unfortunate in the sense of Liverpool and City do look so strong. And as good as Chelsea can be, in my opinion, it's just not as good as Liverpool and City at the moment. So we're sort of judging everything.
Yeah, I was just going to add, though, the only thing I'd say that's a bit different, and this is the whole integrity of the competition element, is we're the only team now that has not received any sort of leniency from the Premier League. And I do think that does have an effect on us because, and I'm talking about the postponement now. I believe so. Have a look. You guys had your game postponed now with Wolves, so you have now received that. Yeah. So now, again, we did ask for it the other day. Didn't get it against Everton or when we had the kids or whenever game it was against Wolves. And this is a situation where now Tottenham, I think, have had 2 or 3 games less. And I know the opposite argument will be, well, they will have their games back-ended to the later part of the season. But the reality is the situation where we're playing games every 48 hours, you've got players now that are playing 1 or 2 training sessions, and you don't even have this whole issue where you can now rely on the 5 subs, which I know Klopp and Tuchel have both asked for. So what do you guys think about that argument? Should we now be looking at reintroducing the 5 subs because of this whole Omicron situation? Or is it just that's the reality of it? You're not going to get a postponement and just have to deal with it?
To me, I think the complaint seems to be that teams are having to play too many of the kids and having to play players that aren't first team ready. 5 subs at the moment, I don't think makes a big difference. It just, you've got more kids on the bench that still aren't ready for the intensity of the Premier League. I think we're seeing this in all sports at the moment. I'm a big NBA fan. And there are players coming back into the NBA getting signed who haven't played for a couple of years up there. So it's affecting all sports. I think you've just got to roll off the punches. 3 subs has been the norm for a while. I think it just stays that way. This is hopefully something that will ease at some point soon. But I don't think being able to bring more kids onto the pitch would would make the world's biggest
Or for more
difference.
squad players, Scott, because it's also the ability to then limit the amount of tactical subs you can make. Because the argument Tuchel's made is that he's had to use at least two of his three subs on fatigue management or injury management and not tactical. So is that what the intention of subs was brought for? So that's why I think he's coming from that angle.
To me, I'd leave it as is. We're all in the same boat. Generally, I know you're saying you guys haven't had one postponed yet, but you will. It'll come, and if it doesn't, it means your players aren't copping as much COVID as everyone else. So I don't know what you think about that, Tom.
Yeah, look, I fully understand the manager's point of view, especially the big clubs wanting 5 subs, and I agree with it and understand it. For me, just in terms of the way I view football and the dynamic of what 5 subs means, I remember watching it in the Europa League final when Villarreal, Solskjaer didn't make a substitution. And okay, that's on Solskjaer. It's not his fault. It's not Villarreal's fault. But Villarreal made 5 subs before we made a sub. They had a new team on the field. And I just don't like 5 subs. You might as well just have a constant interchange. I think I do like the 3 subs. I think that's a nice balance. But in regards to the argument the managers of the big clubs put forward, you can understand it. And look, maybe in the short term, I wouldn't be against it in regards to the situation we do find ourselves in with COVID. But yeah, for me, I'm happy with 3 subs. Get on with it.
Yeah, that's right. I was just thinking mainly from that last game when, like I said, Tuchel said he had Kante, Kovacic both 1 training session each, and we couldn't even have a few more subs. So I just think if you're not going to postpone games, what's another lever you can offer clubs for having to push through the pain barrier and expose their players, ultimately human beings, at risk? So interesting. I hear your arguments, though. So good stuff.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to discuss, boys. Talking about reinforcements, let's quickly move on to January. I'm conscious that we have gone for a little while already, and I don't want to keep Tom for way too long because he just is doubling up on streams. January transfer window, we've been through the festive season, giving gifts, adding something new. Who would you like your club to add shiny and brand new in this window? I know Tom, United could probably do with a couple of players, I think, to stem the bleeding at this point. Who do you think United will sign, or who would you like to see? Maybe 1 or 2 names that are realistic.
To be honest, I get so excited amongst coming up these transfer windows and which shiny toys we can get. I have no idea who I'd bring in. And a lot of the talk around United at the moment is the exits. And I think the exits are just, they're so intriguing. Obviously, with Newcastle, they're a new player in the transfer market now. And we have 3 players who almost want out. So it'll be very interesting in regards to Jesse Lingard. Anthony Martial has confirmed he wants to leave. Ralph Rangnick has said that. And obviously, Dean Henderson, I think, is the ideal signing for Newcastle United at the moment. So a lot of the rumours at the moment are on the exit sort of door. And from in the way I view things, January transfer, if you have to sell a player, you have to sell a player. But it's not the time to be weakening your squad. Even if it's a player you don't want, technically getting rid of them, technically is weakening your squad. You're getting rid of a body. And in this situation we find ourselves in, there could be a week where we have 10 players out due to COVID. And suddenly you've sold a player. Well, we could have done with that player. So I'm not a fan of selling players in January. It's a time where you can only strengthen. In regards to the names, I have no idea. There's been 1 or 2 links with players who have played under the Red Bull banner with Ralph Rangnick, in terms of there's a guy from Leipzig called Haidara. Never seen him play, a defensive midfielder apparently. There's a guy from Kamara, it was called Kamara from Marseille, apparently highly rated, never seen him play. Very much sound like links with, you get a few weeks for a transfer window, link with United and bumps up your price or interest elsewhere. Time will tell, but I simply have no idea who I'll take. I'll obviously take a midfielder, a good quality footballer in the middle of the pitch. But names, I have no idea. That's been honest. And usually I'm so excited about it, but no idea.
Interesting. For me, a friend of mine, Cal, commented on our question that I chucked up about this earlier, and he said, from an Arsenal perspective, I don't want them to sign anyone at the moment because he felt that the squad was in a really good place. And, you know, we have some decent depth. We saw a 17-year-old Charlie Patino come on and score. He's a highly rated youngster. We've got some solid depth. I still would like a signing. I don't think we'll see Aubameyang in an Arsenal shirt again. I think he could be someone who goes. And Lacazette's contract is due to expire and he'll be shopping himself around for the best deal. So I would ideally like to see us sign someone up front who is our longer-term plan. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is someone I'd like. Little bit injury prone, but he can hold the ball up and I think he would fit really well into Arteta's system. Arteta wants that player up front to really be able to hold the ball with your back to goal, bring your wide players into play, use your number 10. He wants someone who can do that, and that's what we didn't see with Aubameyang. So Dominic Calvert-Lewin to me would be ideal. Jonathan Isaac, I don't mind either. Probably not the best at holding the ball up, but a brilliant explosive finisher. So for me, that's probably my wish list. I don't want too much coming in because I agree that our squad is in a good place. RJ, Sean's here. Welcome, Sean. Nice to see you. And Sean said that he hopes you get Tchouaméni. I hope I said that right.
Tchouaméni, yeah. Aurelien Tchouaméni from
close.
Yeah.
Go for
player,
it.
Top player. I want him too, especially because of that midfield issue that I spoke about earlier. I think Declan Rice, so a good friend of ours, Simon Phillips, he shared earlier that via Football London, Chelsea apparently are going to make a pretty big money offer for Declan in the end of season transfer window. So I think, if anything, we will pursue him then. Too early now. West Ham's not going to let him go. They're in the middle of a top 4 race. Why would they do that? For now, we do need a solution in that area just because of the continued unreliability and vulnerability of that midfield, in particular Kante. Kovacic just come back as well. So we really need to safeguard that area. Tchouaméni, watch a YouTube highlights reel of him. I've watched plenty of him in Liga. I think he's a great player, one player of the season last season. And I just think it's now a situation where a lot of the bigger clubs, Real Madrid, etc., they are watching him and actively courting him. I know United have had some links. I've been following that. It's one of those situations where, like we did with Havertz, it might be best to act sooner rather than later before his price goes up, even though Monaco, whatever the situation for the club itself, is not going great. He's still a top player, and I think he's someone where he's young enough to not have too high expectations to want to come in and knock things out of the ballpark straight away, but he's got enough inherent quality to really be integrated into our squad and be a value add for this season and then for future seasons. Equally, the left wing back situation is perilous at the moment. Alonso is a good player, particularly attacking wise for his aerial threat and technical abilities. But in terms of the dynamism, the up and down the flanks, and really have that pace that's needed to really get things going for us, it's been a big gulf in class losing Chilwell. Who would have thought a left wing back would be so instrumental? But Chilwell, since he's gone down, we've really been vulnerable in that left-hand side. And while we do have backups, like Alonso, like Azpilicueta, they're just not the same at this stage. I don't think recalling Emerson will do the job. So I'd pursue someone like a Luka Dean. I know he's been someone that we've been talking about. Quality left wing back.
He's up the top.
Well, if Kieran Tierney wants to join the Champions of Europe, we'll take him. We might do a straight swap with Marcus Alonso. Probably fair deal.
Brilliant. Arsenal probably would.
Yeah, we should get him. We know Arsenal players seem to thrive when they join us. So Luka Dean for me, I'd take. Or I'd even pursue Jules Koundé. And I know he's not the left-sided back, but defensively speaking, and Crispio4, one of our Instagram followers, said his priority, and I agree, defensively speaking, we've got Silva, who's 37, that he's playing out of this world, but how reasonable is it to expect him to continue? Rudiger, every day looks like he's leaving. Christensen, who apparently is very close to Barcelona and knocked back our offer. And Azpilicueta, who's, again, getting a little bit older now, we might need to think about contingency plans. So that's why I said Jules Koundé is someone that I know wants to join us. He's a quality player. He's been good for Sevilla. So I think it's time where we really need to either bump up our offers for Rudiger or Christensen to lock them down, bring in a Koundé, but they're the top 3, Scott. So be Tchouaméni for this window, either Luka Dean, or try to bring in another unknown left back. I know there's been a couple, and then try to either secure Silva or Rudiger or Christensen, or bring in Koundé. So it's one of those two.
Tom, if I'm Ralph Ragnick, I'm looking at Rudiger's situation at Chelsea, and I'm chucking cash at him. United have no shortage of cash. I mean, I know that there are absolutely no rumours on this. I'm not saying it's even.
Well, no, there has been one or two murmurs from United journalists.
Okay.
There's interest now. Obviously, I'm sure they're interested in a lot of players.
We're all interested, aren't we, in a player like that?
The centre back issue is fascinating with United because obviously big money on Rafael Varane. And Varane is actually woeful this morning, to be fair, but he has been good since he's come in. Obviously, a few injury concerns. Our captain is not performing, one as a player and as a captain at the moment. So there's criticism over him, and rightly so. Eric Bailly, for me, I'm done with Eric Bailly. He is what he is. I think you do have to look past him to the future. And Victor Lindelof has actually played quite well this season, but ultimately looking forward, okay, if there's a better defender out there, okay, he's going to be better than Victor Lindelof. So you do improve the squad. And the Rudiger situation's interesting. Whether he has a connection with Ralf Rangnick being a German, I'm not sure. But it is something United do have to consider. And I'm guessing we'll be front of the queue. A lot of it, these situations with player power, we find it now with Paul Pogba and Jesse Lingard. I'm not sure if the situation is the same for Rudiger, but I guess it's similar. He holds the power, and it'll be what he decides, in my opinion.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting because I don't see Rudiger as the kind of guy who would say, no, I wouldn't do that to Chelsea. I'm not going to play for a rival. I see him taking a contract that he feels reflects his worth. I don't know. RJ, do you think, let's pretend if Rudiger went to United, does he improve them markedly?
I think that Rudiger's done really good in a back three situation. I think in the back four, it's a different kettle of fish. I know he's not terrible by any means, but for those that have watched Rudiger since the moment he joined, during the Lampard era and even before that, he had a very, mixed career, if you want to call it that. He was very close to be on the outer, but then he had a major resurgence under Tuchel, particularly in that system change. And I just think he's gone from strength to strength. So he's a top quality player at the peak of his powers. But would he markedly improve United? It really just depends on whether or not who they play around him, to be honest. I think he's a great character. He's got good leadership qualities. But I think it's going to take more than him alone to really change their fortune. So, look, low-key, I don't think that will be his preferred destination. If I was a betting man, I would say Real Madrid is the place he will be going.
Interesting, right. In terms of January transfer wish list, feel free to comment telling us a player you'd like at your club. I know Martin said that he thinks Spurs need a number 10. If you've got a name in mind, Martin, feel free to chuck it in, man. We'd love to see. But
I'm surprised Jesse Lingard's not been linked with Tottenham. I always think he's in that Dele Alli mould, and you just think maybe he's better on his day type thing. And he's only linked with West Ham, but I think other clubs wouldn't do too bad to be looking at Lingard.
I think he'll go back to West Ham.
I was going to say, Tom, just quickly, I'm not sure if you saw in the United Newcastle game about the sign saying, Ronaldo, you got your next club at Newcastle. So, hey, crazy things could happen. This is 2021. So.
Speaking of crazy things, I want to put it on record. I actually think that Aubameyang to Newcastle, I don't think that's a stupid rumour by any means. They can afford his wage. I'm not saying, you know what? I wouldn't be shocked. If Aubameyang plays for another club in the Premier League, it'll be Newcastle for me. And I'm probably going to sound stupid for saying it. Tom would tell. But that's the only other Premier League team I see him going to. I don't see any other club being able to match his wages. And he won't take a pay cut. He likes his cars too much. But isn't the problem for Newcastle that they need players that actually turn up? Like, that might be a bit of a problem for them. He'll probably be a bit late. Newcastle traffic. Boys, it's been 53 minutes, so let's jump over to do some quick predictions. I'm going to chuck up the fixtures. We're not going to explain our prediction too much. We'll just do it almost quick-fire predictions. Tom, your predictions count for Rob. So, Daniel, count Tom's for Robbie. Crystal Palace and Norwich tomorrow morning. I'm going with 2-0 to Palace. Tom?
Yeah, stole the words out. 2-0 Palace.
Lock me in for that as well.
All right. Spurs playing against Southampton. I think Spurs will take this one 2-1. What about you, Arj?
No, I don't think so. I think this will be 1-1.
Ooh, Tom?
Yeah, I was thinking a draw. 1-1 sounds pretty good, RJ. I was probably going to go with that one.
Okay, 1-1. There you go. Watford hosting West Ham. This will be an interesting match. What do you think will happen, Tom?
Probably fancy Watford. I think that they were very good against United a couple of weeks ago. And I'd back Watford. Maybe Watford 2-1.
Arch?
Yeah, really tough game for me, this one. I actually think another draw here. I'm going to go 2-2.
I'm going to go for West Ham to bounce back after the disappointment and win this one 2-1. Leicester hosting Liverpool. I don't see anything other than the Liverpool win. Here I'm going to go with Liverpool 3-1. What about you, RJ?
Yeah, I think a Liverpool win also. I will go with I'll go for a 2-0.
Tom?
Yes. Look, sadly, you do have to go with Liverpool. A bit tricky time of year. Sometimes a few sort of bumpy results, but let's say a tight 1-0 for Liverpool.
All right, RJ, you can do the honours because this is your team. Chelsea hosting Brighton.
Right. I'm going to go, unsurprisingly, Chelsea at home to take out a hard-fought 2-1 win over Brighton.
Tom?
Yeah, I think it'll be look hard fought or comfortable. I think it'll be obviously one or the other, but I'd say Chelsea 2-0.
I'm with Tom. Chelsea 2-0. Last one we're going to do because, of course, we'll be live again on Thursday evening at 8:30 p.m. Brentford hosting Man City. Tom, what do you see happening here?
Look, I'd like to be brave and throw a little bit of a curveball in there, but because I am putting my picks in for Rob, I do have to be sensible and look at City. I'd say City 3-0.
Yeah, look, I think this is going to be a bit of a bloodbath. 4-1 City.
Yeah, I'm going to go 3-0 City as well.
Jeez, plenty of love for City at the moment. That is our predictions. Let's quickly hit a quick fire and then we can wrap this up. RJ, I know you had some quick fires.
Yeah, it was more geared because I wasn't sure, Tom. You drafted in late, but just quickly, Tom, but this is going to govern the question. Do you watch Game of Thrones at all? Because if not, I'll have to have a backup question.
I'll opt for your backup question because Game of Thrones is not on my list.
Excellent. Glad. Here. All right. The plan B question then.
You want me to go first, mate?
No. I've got the backup question lined up, mate. That's it. We're like Chelsea, mate. We've got to have backups left, right, and centre. We don't have any love from anybody. So here's the backup question for you guys. It's holiday season. What's a trilogy or like a multi-series sort of movie films that you'd like to watch over this break?
Oh, that's a good one. I might watch the Rocky movies again. I haven't watched them in a while.
Yeah.
During the long COVID lockdown, I watched all of the Marvel movies again from start to finish. So I'm not doing that again. I need 4 months at home. But I'm going to watch the Rockies again, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, look, Rocky's a good shout. I don't know if you can call them sort of a trilogy or in sequels. They kind of all had their own story. But it was on the TV the other night, obviously around Christmas, the old National Lampoons.
Oh,
Watch
yeah.
National Lampoons Christmas. So we'll have to go back and watch those in order. But they're always this time of year. Good to sort of get out.
Great choice. And I saw Martin put Back to the Future. Can't beat a Marty McFly DeLorean situation. I'll go pretty old school for this one, guys, and I'll chuck in The Godfather for me.
Oh, yeah, very good. Good shout. Did you have another one or you want me to do mine?
No, you go your next one and we'll come back.
All right, my one's around football. What's your favourite piece of merchandise or memorabilia or a favourite kit that you own? Something in your collection that you absolutely love?
Well, favourite kit, probably wearing it, 96 Man United kit. Memorabilia, I've got a few. Obviously, you can see behind me, I've got a book personally signed by Sir Alex and Dennis Law behind me. I've got a lot. Obviously, in another room, a few One Matter shirts. You can see Gigs and Skulls above me as well. So I'm very blessed with some of the stuff I do have. But favourite kit would be this 96 kit. And I'd say the favourite piece memorabilia would be the Sir Alex Ferguson book.
Yeah, that's a nice piece. What about you, Arch? Even favourite piece of merchandise doesn't have to be memorabilia.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've got a few in the background here. As you can see, a couple of Chelsea balls. Got some nice new gear here. Got a nice Zola scarf that I acquired recently from the official Sydney Chelsea Supporters Club, which Zola was one of my favourites, aside from Super Frank. But in terms of jersey, I really like the new one I got recently of the '97 FA Cup. So that was quite a nostalgic piece for me. But I've got some great jerseys over the years. Too tough to pick.
For me, it'd probably be my favourite jersey of all time was our last season in Highbury. I don't know if you remember, it was like the red currant, maroony kind of.
What was the reasoning for that? Was that their inaugural? Was that their first ever colours type thing? I always forget the reasoning for why they did that, or their first season at Highbury, or
I think it might have been the first season at Highbury, but I'm not 100%. I know we've got some people in the chat who have some excellent kit knowledge, but that kit for me is hands down my favourite of all time, and I've got one of those signed by Thierry Henry. So that when I used to stream in the other room, that was always in the background, but that kit and that jersey will always have a special place to me, a special place. There's a couple in here. Martin saying his Spurs scarf that he bought at White Hart Lane in '77.
Nice.
Trippy, Simon Ryan Giggs photo that the boys got for my 18th. That's right. That was us. That was me, I think, who organised that one. So you're welcome, Trips. You're welcome. RJ, any more, or we're going to wrap this up, dude?
Let's wrap it up, man. We hit the hour mark. We've got Tom long enough, and it's been a cracking episode.
Can I, before we wrap up, just again thank Tom, who came over from the United Pubcast, did a back-to-back stream. I've done them before. It is quite tiring, so thank you, Tom, for subbing in at the last minute. If you haven't already, search the United Pubcast and subscribe to them. They're like us. They're working hard, trying to make some good content. They're on the road to 500 as well. So I know we've got a few United fans in here. Trippy, jump over and sub. I know Declared has subbed. Don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but you'll take him. He's
welcome. All welcome, especially after a loss. And there could be more on the horizon. So if you do enjoy a United defeat, you're more than welcome.
So make sure you check them out because Tom and Larry are both good fellas, and our podcasts have a lot of time for each other. So, RJ, any closing thoughts, mate?
No, just looking forward to Thursday's episode. Obviously, going through the games that are happening midweek, and hopefully just get some continuity of fixtures, because I'm sure you boys can all appreciate these are unusual times and these fixture cancellations are really interfering with the norm. But let's hope, like broader society, we can have a much more enjoyable 2022.
Tom, any closing thoughts, matey?
No, just again, another big thank you for having me on. As I said, like just finished my stream, but I was just going to sit and watch this stream anyway if Rob was fit. So hopefully I did Rob proud, and hopefully those picks come through for him. Even though I wouldn't mind Liverpool and City dropping some points, hopefully I did him well.
Oh, look, hopefully you didn't, but that's a topic for another day.
Maybe if United win, Rob will come back and join us for that episode. We'll stir him up offline.
He'll be back on Thursday. For those who aren't sure, please make sure you come back. We're on Thursday night as well, 8:30 p.m. Hit the like button on your way out, and feel free to jump back on tomorrow at some point. Just leave a comment on the video. It helps get it seen by a wider audience. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you again to Tom. Have a good night, everyone, and enjoy your football. Take care.